January 17th, 2020. It's no funny.
You're never going to get tired of saying that.
That's good.
Eventually, as we get deeper in the year, that will get old. But for now, this is episode 137, Nerd Bourbon, episode 137, that is. So you got me all fucked up now.
You fucked up. Garbage.
I'm Seth Sturgill.
And I'm Todd Sturgill.
Todd, we're at PAX right now.
I'm balls deep in your...
Oh, God. You had to take it there, huh? We are at PAX South 2020 at the time you're listening to this. And who knows what we're doing. I guess Todd has an idea, but we're playing video games. We're playing video games. We are hanging out. We are enjoying the lovely exhibition hall there at the beautiful Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center in downtown San Antonio. It'll be an experience, or it is an experience rather. So since we're gone, Todd, the show must go on, as we've done so many times. We've never missed a week in these beautiful several years that we've been doing this show.
You ever just want to just say fuck it though? No, I'm just playing.
Sometimes. No, but the show must continue unabated, Todd. And that tradition will continue this week with Nerd Bourbon. We may be in San Antonio, but thanks to the magic of the internet, we will live forever in your heart. And we'll be here for an episode for you this week. Todd, whenever we have the opportunity to do one of these evergreen episodes, as we call them, the question always kind of enters my mind of what we're going to cover for it.
Mm-hmm.
We've done retrospectives in the past.
Yes.
Which have been fun. We've done evergreen episodes that involve like entire topics, like one show about an entire topic.
I don't remember all the ones we've done.
Yeah, we've done several for various reasons, but this week we're going to tackle the games of the decade because, quite frankly, it's the best idea I had.
Pathetic. No, I'm just playing.
We've seen a lot of people there. A lot of publications have been putting out their kind of like top games of the decade and everything, and I found the conversation to be somewhat interesting for two reasons. One, I think it's kind of nice to look back at the decade past. We are, as you said at the top of the show, this is the year 2020. So it is kind of fun to look back at the past 10 years of video games, but it's also a bit weird because, starting from 2010, I mean, I don't know, there's a weird disconnect where it's like, yeah, technically it's 10 years, but you only go up to 2019. I don't know, just it doesn't fit right in my OCD brain. You know what I'm saying?
Your fucking lizard brain.
Yeah, it doesn't fit right. I wish, I don't know. If you went from 2010 to 2020, that would be technically 11 games. Like it's fucked up. I hate it. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any godly sense. You understand what I'm saying? Now, what we've done, Todd, is you and I have each constructed a list. We have looked back.
To be honest with you, I didn't. No, I'm just
we have looked back at the years past, and we have taken a stroll down memory lane separately. And we each kind of have our idea. Now, I want to be clear. This is not going to be sort of like a battle royale of like, what's your favorite game of these particular years? Because we would each have like very different opinions on that. I want to determine what is the most iconic, what game defines this year. You know what I mean? It may not necessarily be your favorite or my favorite. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But whatever the case may be, what game defined the year in question? And then after we hash that out, I would like to determine what game defines the decade. What game defines the 2010s, Todd? So let's start our little journey here in the year 2010, or 2010, or whatever you want to call it. And I'll be honest, I've got my list here, but I'm also just sort of looking at the games that came out in 2010, and there's a lot of good ones. I'm curious what your thought process was as you approached 2010. What do you think is where's your head at? I want to get a read on you.
Well, what? I mean, the 2010s for me, there was only one game that came to mind as I was looking through the list.
For the year 2010?
Yeah.
What's that?
Halo Reach.
Really?
Yeah.
I think there's a strong argument to be made there. This is such a big year if you look at like some of these games that came out during that time. I mean, like Red Dead Redemption's pretty massive.
Yeah.
Right.
That too.
Mass Effect 2, New Vegas, the first Black Ops, God of War 3. I'm just like, these are really big games. You could make an argument that like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood may be the best of that era of Assassin's Creed. Came out in 2010. There is, of course, the Toy Story 3 game on Nintendo DS.
Oh, fuck you.
But I'm looking at Halo 3 or Halo Reach. I think is a solid choice. The one that I immediately put down is Mass Effect 2.
Mm-hmm.
And my reasoning for this is that I feel like Mass Effect as a series, I think, sort of represented something that we hadn't necessarily seen before in video games.
Yeah.
Which is the sort of like a continued narrative between both games. The fact that my character from Mass Effect 1, my choices in Mass Effect 1, imported into 2.
Yeah.
And to be frank, we don't really get that even still today all that often. Yeah. And so for that reason, I immediately put Mass Effect 2, but I also think Halo Reach, I mean, when I think...
Can I say something about Mass Effect as a whole? Is like why I probably didn't even think about it is because I ghost the shit out of those games now because of how I played them.
Well, look, you were punished for your sins.
True.
But at the same time, though, you're right. Because if I look at this list here of games that came out in 2010, the game that I played the most during that year was certainly Halo Reach.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Halo Reach, in my mind, I feel like that is my most played game that year.
Oh, it certainly is. Like, there's no question about that for me. And then, like, you also got, I mean, think of how huge Red Dead Redemption was when that first came out. Like, I remember working at GameStop that night for that midnight launch, and just, like, how depressing it was, because I'm sitting there with my copy of Alan Wake. And, like, I think I was one of 3 people that bought that game.
I got it for free.
Years later,
yeah.
I got it at midnight. And I think it was me and like 2 other people. Everybody else was there for Red Dead.
Well, it's like even that game. Like I have I'm not gonna say a fond memory. It's a terrible memory of when I was a teenage cyborg.
Oh, like just the sheer amount of time you spent with it.
Oh no, dude! Like, it was 16 hours straight.
Yeah. But that was another one where like that game came out and it was pretty revolutionary for like a Rockstar game.
Mm-hmm.
Like we hadn't really seen a game of quite that caliber in that setting and everything. That game that was huge. And then also, you know, it's funny because Mario Galaxy 2 came out in 2010, and like if we were talking about my personal favorite out of all of these, that would be it. But we're not talking about that. Yeah, but, you know, I look at this list, too, and I'm also like, fuck, Heavy Rain came out in 2010.
Damn, dude.
Heavy Rain was massive when it came out. Like, the impact of Heavy Rain cannot be overstated. I remember that's actually the only time I can point to working at GameStop when Heavy Rain came out, where every employee that was working there at the time, all of us were playing Heavy Rain.
Mm.
Every single solitary one of us. From, like, we had women on our staff that weren't huge gamers and stuff like that, but god damn it, they were still playing Heavy Rain. Like, Heavy Rain was huge, and it was, like, so in the zeitgeist when it came out. And then, like, God of War 3, what a massive, like, conclusion to that trilogy. This was a really strong year for video games. And then in the indie scene, like, Super Meat Boy.
Super Meat Boy come out?
one of the best indie games of all time. Like, ugh. It's tough. For me though, I look at this and I really do think it's a toss up between, in my mind, Halo Reach, Red Dead, and Mass Effect 2. If I think of which one of these is the most innovative, I tip my hat to Mass Effect.
Yeah.
If I think of which one is the most impressive, I think Red Dead.
Mm-hmm.
If I think of the one that is the most like meaningful in terms of hours played and stuff, then it's got to be Halo.
I have such fond memories of that game.
Halo?
Oh, yeah. Dude.
It's also impossible to remove the sort of like bittersweet factor from Halo Reach, because another thing that gives this game a large amount of like prominence in this discussion is the fact that it was Bungie's last Halo game.
It was when they switched off the 3-4 when 343 took the helm.
It is the swan song of Bungie's Halo, and it was really good. I don't know, man.
The end of Bungie, just
I'm torn. I mean, I don't know. This is the first fucking year. This is already a really hard decision. I think I will surrender to you with Halo Reach.
All right then.
I think I'll give it to Halo Reach, just if not for Bungie. It is sort of the end of Bungie's era. I don't think Halo is going to get any other representation on this list. So,
not at all.
I think I feel comfortable giving it to Halo Reach.
All right then.
For 2010's most important game, the game of 2010, I'll give it to Halo Reach. It's hard though. I feel weird leaving Mass Effect in the dust like that, but that's okay.
Fuck that game. No, I'm just playing.
Just because you didn't play it right.
I'm sorry they all died.
God. You didn't do enough of the side quest, Tom.
They deserved it.
All right, let's
Except
move.
Garrus.
Garrus did not deserve what happened to him.
Garrus did. No, Garrus, no!
They're raping me! Basically. He's just getting like pulled away by the fucking what are they called?
I don't remember. Like basically krill.
Basically,
are they actually krill?
The little bug aliens.
Yeah, it was
what
bad.
They're called.
So bad.
2011. Now this is another really major year. For me, I'll tell you the first my gut reaction was Skyrim.
That was mine as well.
That was my gut reaction. So, but I think we should explore these other options, because this was the year that gave us Dark Souls. So, I mean, we cannot deny how important Dark Souls is.
Oh no, it's definitely very important. But part of me is like, I don't think Dark Souls came into prominence until later.
I sort of agree with that, but the significance though
of it just coming out
just as a thing, like Dark Souls literally created a genre.
What do you mean? You mean Demon Souls did? No, I'm just playing.
Not even though, because like Demon Souls was good and everything, and like people played it, but like Dark Souls is where where FromSoft hit their stride. Well, but then like you cannot overstate how major we got. Like Gears 3 was so huge, dude. Oh, that game is so good.
I forgot LA Noire came out in 2011.
LA Noire was a big deal. That game was like long and like tortured development, and then when it finally came out, it was actually like really good.
Yeah, the fucking still like the whole like facial shit was good. Facial animation.
It still looks good.
Yeah,
like to this day looks good. Bastion, another one of my favorite indie games of all time. Dead Space 2, Skyward Sword. Mario 3D Land, one of the best handheld games of all time. It's like, fuck.
What the fuck is that? There was a Captain America game?
You know what? It actually wasn't half bad. It was based on the first game. Back when I was like a really bad achievement whore,
I
played that game. It had really easy achievements.
You sicken me.
So I got all the achievements in that game. It actually wasn't terrible. It was not a bad game. But yeah, I'm looking at this. I mean, Modern Warfare 3, these are huge like trilogy enders, right? Like Uncharted 3, Modern Warfare 3, Gears 3. Like these are big games. Portal 2. Think about that. Portal 2 was huge.
Yeah.
Arkham City was massive. I mean, I feel like this 2011 to me is the year of the massive sequel. Like 2011 is the year where we just had these enormous.
Skyrim's still that.
Yeah, technically, but I'll never forget, man, when Skyrim first came out. Like I'll never forget just the cold November standing in line.
I remember like just the fucking teaser trailer. That shit was hype, bro. Hype.
Everybody's dicks exploded when that first trailer
just
came
that
out.
whole bullshit. The whole fucking like, what is it? There was a fucking animation. I could probably still find it.
Are you talking about that Harry Partridge one where he's like, "Holy shit, what is this?" Yeah.
That was all of us, you know. It's like,
yeah, it really was. It was just funny. Like I think it ends. He's like, and
just
he'll be called Dragonborn or whatever.
And he's just sitting there. I remember it. Oh, he's just like sitting there, just fucking basically passed out with a fucking boner.
Yeah, at the very end, just drooling, like leaned back in his chair with an enormous boner. That's basically what it was.
I'm fucking playing Skyrim right now.
You're playing it literally right now. Yeah, I
feel you on this, but like. This was the moment I'm like looking at the list. There is some really crazy shit on there, like really like crazy games that.
For me, it's a toss up between Skyrim's sheer popularity and Dark Souls' actual significance. This is my Sophie's choice right now.
I kind of want to give it to Dark Souls for that.
Yeah,
but there's another thing. There's something shows up on my list later on, but
yeah, I think I know what you're driving at there, and I think we have our heads in the same place there. But at the same time, even that game though was inspired by That game wouldn't exist without Dark Souls. You know what I mean?
The important. I'll get into the why. I don't know.
I'm like, fuck, man.
Part of me does agree though with Dark Souls though, because it did kind of create essentially its own genre. It created
that genre. There's so many games we would not have without that. You could argue
that Jedi Fallen Order wouldn't exist without it.
Think about games that aren't even necessarily directly inspired, but clearly take some influence from Dark Souls.
Yeah,
I'm thinking even Breath of the Wild even.
Mm-hmm.
Probably would not exist in the same form without Dark Souls.
All right. We get it. We're giving Dark Souls 2011 Dark Souls.
Dark Souls, okay.
Yeah.
That's a really hard choice though, man. Because God, Skyrim was unmatched, like in terms of how huge it was. But yeah, I feel good about like my mind says Skyrim, but my heart says Dark Souls. You know what I mean? All right. So 2012, for me, 2012 is not a very difficult year.
Mm-hmm.
I already kind of know where your head's at with it. And because this is the year that Borderlands 2 came out.
This is the year of unemployment.
So I already know that Borderlands 2 is probably your front runner.
It is, yeah.
For this. And Borderlands 2, no doubt a huge game.
I mean, there's other games that I would love to talk about on here because it's like, shit. The thing is, I didn't even play it around this time. I don't think, because it's Dragon's Dogma came out in 2012.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that's a great game.
There are a lot of games that came out during 2012 that really became part of like the zeitgeist that were like really talked about. So like Journey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody talked about Journey when that game came out. Like, that game was massive.
Sleeping Dogs came out in 2012.
Yeah, so these are some great games. I mean, Fez finally came out after, like, fucking, like, 10 years in development. Like, that game finally came out in 2012. I'm looking at some of these.
Spec Ops: The Line.
Yep, that came out in 2012.
It's like that game got talked about.
Animal Crossing New Leaf was massive. I mean, Mass Effect 3, for better or for worse, came out in 2012. I love that game, but
Dishonored came out in 2012.
the first Dishonored game, Diablo 3, Far Cry 3, aka Skyrim with guns. Dude, I remember so vividly when Far Cry 3 was coming out. They literally GameStop. I worked for GameStop at the time.
Yeah.
They literally were having us pitch that to customers as Skyrim with guns.
That's so stupid.
I got so sick of hearing that phrase because it would even play on the GameStop TV. It's like Skyrim with guns. And oh my god, bro! We used to make jokes about it where we would relate everything to Skyrim.
God damn it! It's like the whole it's the Dark Souls of platformers.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. We would just be like, Dead Island. Yeah, it's like Skyrim with zombies or whatever.
Dumb as hell.
It's like Mass Effect. It's like Skyrim, but in space. Just everything had to be related to Skyrim, which I mean really goes to show why Skyrim technically should be the 2011 game. But hey, we've already made our decision.
I don't know where to go. Where you what's the toss up for you?
There was no toss up for me. For me, the undisputed game of 2012 is Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 1.
Oh shit. Oh, that did come out.
For me,
yeah,
The Walking Dead Season 1 was so fucking mind-blowing.
No, that's as much as I love Borderlands 2. Yeah, I am in full agreement on that. I actually I don't even know how I went past that.
Yeah, when that game, everybody was talking about that game. There was no middle ground. That game just owned everything. Telltale had never, we all know Telltale's arc.
I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna be honest. I still think the first season was the best.
I would probably agree.
Yeah.
It's so funny because we all know Telltale's arc. We all have played all these different Telltale games. It all started there. Before The Walking Dead Season 1, Telltale was really nothing. I mean, they were making these shitty Back to the Future games and stuff like that. They made some good stuff. They made Sam and Max and stuff like that. But really, this was The Walking Dead Season 1 was where they really hit their stride and everybody was talking about it. So when I define 2012 in my own mind, I define it with that game personally. I love all these other games. I love Borderlands 2, and I knew you were going to try to fight for Borderlands 2.
Yeah, there's not much fight though, because I straight forgot about the Walking Dead.
But if we're talking about importance, I mean, Borderlands 2 was great, and it sold a lot of copies, and we spent a lot of time. You spent thousands of hours of that game, but
it's baby numbers actually. No, I'm just playing.
But it didn't light the world on fire either.
It lit a corner on fire.
Now, 2013. If we're gonna go ahead and lock down The Walking Dead Season 1 as 2012's Game of the Year. 2013 is where shit gets kind of interesting for me.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
For many, many reasons. Now, this would be so easy if we were talking about what is our favorite game or what is the best game. But when I think of, I'm looking at all these. What is the most important game out of all of these? And I'm just it's got to be Disney Infinity. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, fuck
off. I could make this is the year where I could make a strong argument for many games as being the most important. Grand Theft Auto 5 is still in
that game's still going strong.
That game is still in the top 20 best-selling games of the year.
Yeah.
We're talking about 6+ years after its release. The Last of Us is one of the best games ever made. BioShock Infinite, Ken Levine's long-awaited follow-up, and a fantastic game. I mean,
that's still probably my favorite BioShock.
Really, really good game. Gone Home, really influential game too. A lot of games sort of aped that walking simulator narrative exploration game after Gone Home came out.
Yeah, that was definitely The main game that started that shit.
And that's one of again, this is one of these years where I'm like, if I'm talking about the game that defined 2013 for me personally, I would go for Gone Home, and I would even make the argument that Gone Home is really influential for what it was too, because that game came out and, like I said, everybody sort of aped them. But I'm also just looking at some of these other games and I'm just like, ugh.
Bro, fucking Rise came out. I'm just playing.
Bro, fucking
Yeah, Outlast came out in 2013 too.
Outlast, yeah. Yeah, there's some good shit. Like there's some really good shit.
Everybody, that's where that brought the fucking found film shit.
Uh-huh. It's interesting to go back and see some like these trends and where they started. The Tomb Raider reboot started in 2013 and that was like shockingly good.
That's yeah.
Here's my if we're talking about what is the best game on this list, for me it is unquestionably The Last of Us.
I'm in agreement there.
But is The Last of Us influential? Is The Last of Us like defining in any way? I think it defines the PS3.
Yeah.
I think that if we're talking about the PS3's swan song,
that was definitely The Last of Us.
I think there's an argument to be made there with just the significance it has in that regard. I think that GTA 5 has got the Skyrim factor where it's like it's just so massive.
Yeah.
It has to be a part of the conversation.
I owned it on every console you can own it on.
Yeah. For me, it's a toss-up between The Last of Us for significance, for what it meant for PlayStation, for what it means for games in general. It's just a masterpiece of a game. GTA 5 for what it means for just pop culture, because that's just one of the biggest.
Yeah, and then Gone Home.
Yeah, and then Gone Home for not only just for personal reasons, but like for like, again, that narrative exploration style was just so like. There's so many games that kind of aped that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what I want to give it to here.
But for the record, Grand Theft Auto 5 was mine. That was
my gut was for The Last of Us. With Grand Theft Auto 5 being
the only reason I didn't do Last of Us is I assumed you were gonna have Last of Us or Gone Home.
Yeah.
So honestly, because you basically nailed it, like the reasons for each of them. But I didn't even play Gone Home, but I do like you actually streamed it for me on some shitty.
Yes. It was awful. I loved Gone Home so much. I was like showing it to anybody who would watch. Basically,
I honestly kind of want to give it to because even in that shitty way that I like kind of like experienced that game, I did actually like love what I saw with it. So I don't know. I think we should just get.
Let me even strengthen the argument for Gone Home here.
Oh.
Because not only was Gone Home the sort of like this was the game that sort of paved the way for, think about the games that we wouldn't have without Gone Home paving the way for them. I'm talking about games like What Remains of Edith Finch, Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, Firewatch, Stanley Parable. These games that took pretty direct inspiration from Gone Home.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, if you really think about it, Gone Home is one of the few games that sort of like brought into the limelight the sort of like, I'm not trying to go like uber PC or whatever here, but the sort of like LGBT topics that were not super talked about.
So what you're saying is it was the downfall. No, I'm just just kidding.
But what I'm saying is these things were not super talked about in games until Gone Home.
Yeah.
I feel like Gone Home sort of opened that door.
What the fuck was... I don't know why I remember. You actually... I don't even know why I still remember this. You shared an image of Gone Home. And like Dan made like a dumb comment not realizing what it was or something.
It was like a picture of Sam and Lonnie from Gone Home, and he for some reason thought it was gender bent Gabe and Tycho from Penny Arcade.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was one of those, Gone Home was one of those games where like I wanted you to experience it. I wanted like my little brother and sister to experience it. I made my wife now, my girlfriend at the time, play it because it's one of those games where everybody has something to relate to
Yeah.
inside of it. But I also think that you could make the argument that Gone Home paved the way for us to have a conversation about, like, you look at a game like The Last of Us, you could make the argument that without Gone Home, maybe we wouldn't have The Last of Us Left Behind, where we explored Ellie's sexuality a little bit. The Gone Home kind of opened that door.
I think that's a little bit of a stretch, Tom.
I feel like Gone Home opened the door for that sort of conversation, and I think it also mechanically paved the way for a lot of games too.
I mean, I bet you. So, like, I think you sold everybody.
So with all that in mind, 2012's or 2013's Game of the Year, Lego Marvel Superheroes. So we're good to give that to Gone Home. I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm curious. Let's move on to 2014. Let's move into a 2014ian direction. What are your thoughts on 2014?
Now, even if this game didn't start out as strong, I do think it had an impact.
Yes, I think I know what you're going to say.
Destiny 1.
Yeah.
Like, that, it was Bungie's next big thing. And even if it didn't really get, like, fucking good until, like, Taken King.
Right.
But I do think even in its base form, it definitely had an impact. It was in, like, everybody was talking about Destiny 1 in 2014.
We do have the advantage of 2014 not being a super great year for video games.
Yeah.
So I had this tossed up in my mind. Yeah, Destiny 1 was my front runner as well. I also think there's an argument to be made for Hearthstone.
Yeah.
I think there is an argument to be made for Titanfall.
Definitely.
But I think Destiny 1 is really kind of, like you said, it didn't start off super strong, but let it never be overstated.
Dude, I will fucking say it. I will remember the loot cave, bitches. There was a I don't know, dude. You did that shit too, right? You were in on that. There was something beautiful about that shit, because, like, the game really just started off on such a rough foot with, like, the loot and all that, but it got to the point where as a community, everybody was just sitting there on that stupid ass rock, shooting down into that cave just to get some goddamn loot.
Let it never be overstated how Destiny was sort of like, I mean, this invented sort of the, like, asynchronous, like, looter shooter, as it were.
Yeah.
That we sort of have now. I mean, I know Borderlands kind of popularized that with the first game and stuff like that, but
this was the first, like, more MMO-ish.
This is basically a console shooter MMO. Even though it took Bungie forever to actually acknowledge it as such. I think it wasn't even until, like, last year that they finally said, okay, this is
they finally admit it with, like, Destiny 2 and, like, and they're actually, like, going dude, I've been so close. I've had to give in.
Oh no, I'm too far gone now.
It's
But I mean, like, look, we played a fuck ton of Destiny. I mean, some great Destiny memories for sure.
That big dick DPS.
There's some great Destiny memories, and I mean,
I still, like, dude. I always, like, think fondly of that fucking, not fondly, because that shit genuinely probably pissed me off. Is like just this is just, like, later on with the King's Fall raid.
Yeah.
Fuck.
But those are the sort of war stories that you get with MMOs, and those are the moments that are kind of ingrained in your mind. You know. Yeah. It helps that the year in general was kind of weak. But yeah, for me, Destiny kind of is the no-brainer here.
Yeah.
I mean, the argument could be made for Hearthstone, but I think it kind of ultimately ends up falling a little flat. Because Hearthstone is a great game. Influenced certain games. You saw, like, Elder Scrolls Legends trying to ape them. Even Magic the Gathering, which is the game that Hearthstone kind of copies. Even that kind of tried to do its own version of Hearthstone.
Yep.
So, but I think Destiny takes it. So, 2015 is interesting. I already know where your heart lies. with 2015.
It sold consoles, boy.
It did. It did sell consoles.
It sold consoles, and it got everybody to get into the Souls games in a way. It
Yeah,
eased them into it.
so Bloodborne was big. I mean, Bloodborne was like, it was certainly bigger than anybody thought it was going to be. Even Sony thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Sony didn't really even understand what they had with Bloodborne.
They had fucking gold.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's certainly an important game. Is it an influential game? I don't know that it's necessarily influential.
I already know where you're gonna go, bitch.
I have a couple.
I won't give it to what you would. I think it might end up on.
I have a couple. I actually have a couple of thoughts here. So I think you could make a strong argument for. I think you can make a really strong argument for Splatoon. I think you could make a strong argument for Undertale.
There it is.
I think you can make a strong argument for Her Story.
I feel like you can make a strong argument for The Witcher 3, technically.
Yeah, The Witcher 3 was a big deal, for sure. I mean, that spawned a fucking Netflix show.
I mean, shit, as dog shit of a game as Fallout 4, technically.
Fallout 4 was also huge. I mean, you can't deny that.
Until Dawn was interesting.
I love Bloodborne. I know you love Bloodborne. I just wonder how... It was certainly significant to the start of the PS4's life. And when I think back on the best PS4 games...
I feel like that was... My thing with Bloodborne is, like, yeah, the importance of Dark Souls, and with, like, when we give it, was it 2011?
Yeah.
I think the importance of Bloodborne is that really put, like, in my mind, that had people actually going back and playing Dark Souls. That is my thing. That game, in my mind, truly popularized. That was what put Dark Souls on the map in my mind, is with Bloodborne.
You know, we completely glossed over this Rocket League.
Oh, shit.
Rocket League was huge.
Yeah, it's still kind of...
Well, when that game first came out, so smart of them to partner with Sony when they first came out. And if you remember, it came out as a free PS Plus game.
Yep.
So they instantly, I think within the first week, they had like 10 million plus players. So, I mean, Rocket League was massive. This is also the year of Mario Maker, the year of Arkham Knight, the year of Metal Gear Solid 5, Kojima's last Metal Gear game. There's some significant games in here. I mean, I'm not going to make the argument for Undertale, even though if it were me, if I had complete control of this list, Undertale would be the no-brainer. But I know that I will. I know that I will never be able to sell you on the merits of Undertale.
You never will.
So, with that in mind, I think there's a strong argument to be made for Bloodborne. It's tough, dude.
What's the other one? Because I won't give it to Undertale.
I know. I will never be able to sell you on Undertale. But I look at this, I'm like, okay, so in my mind right now, there's Bloodborne, there's Evolve. No, I'm just kidding.
I actually was gonna joke about. Here's the thing, we do have memories of Evolve.
We had a little bit of fun with Evolve. No, in my singing Shakira. In my mind, it's a toss up between Bloodborne. I'll make the argument for Splatoon real quick.
Okay.
Now, I know you didn't play as much Splatoon as I did, and removing myself from the Splatoon equation, this is the first original Nintendo IP in years.
Mm-hmm.
When Splatoon came out, this is Nintendo tackling a lot of firsts. Nintendo, before Splatoon, was not known for competitive multiplayer, outside of, like, Smash. It was not known for shooters, and still is not known for shooters. Splatoon is really its only competitive shooter franchise. Still huge and popular to this day. And just the style and the music was unlike anything we'd ever seen before. And again, it cannot be overstated how, like, rare it is still to get brand new IP out of Nintendo.
Yeah.
And Splatoon totally represented that. Splatoon was such a, like, breath of fresh air. And as a Nintendo fan, I can't understate that. And again, just the huge swath of popularity with Rocket League. For me, it's between those three.
Yeah, that's a good 3. Let's see.
Because it's like here's what I'll say. If we give it to Bloodborne, I feel like we should rescind Dark Souls. I feel like if we give it to Bloodborne, I feel like we should.
You do agree with me on that, right?
I do agree
like
with
the
you.
whole thing, like Bloodborne, like kind of like that's the one that kind of I think made people go back and like actually like, oh, what is this? What do we have here? You know, I mean, I was already on the whole Dark Souls train. I was already on the Dark Souls train at this point.
Let me articulate it like this: Dark Souls created that genre, but Bloodborne popularized that genre.
Yes.
Bloodborne was the one, even though it was not the first, it was not the progenitor. Bloodborne was the one that made it mainstream.
I still think this though. I think it's the one that does it the best. I still think to this day it's the one that does it the best.
Yeah,
it's still like in my mind. It's still it's still my favorite game of all time.
So if I will give you Bloodborne, but I feel like if we give it to Bloodborne, we have to go back and give 2011 to Skyrim.
There we go. I agree. I'm fine with that.
Okay. So we'll do that. Man, this is actually way more difficult than I thought it was going to be.
I kind of had a feeling it was going to be like this.
So, moving right along to 2016. It's interesting as we get closer and closer to like the modern day, because these games are like more and more fresh in my mind. Where was your head at for 2016? Lots of big games.
Overwatch.
That was the first place my head went to. However,
there's a lot of games here, man.
This is one of those things where there's like a terrible decision to be made. And that the same kind of thing is going to happen next year in 2017. But a terrible thing is like, how do you get bigger than Pokemon Go?
That's I was just looking at it, I was like, motherfucker.
Like, how do you get bigger than Pokemon Go? This is the distinction we have to make.
So that's the thing. When you bring up Pokemon Go, there is nothing bigger than Pokemon Go.
So that's something we have. That is a line we have to draw in the sand here, because like there is and will never be anything bigger than Pokemon Go.
I remember playing Pokemon Go on the fucking CTA. Like dude, it's I remember seeing people playing it, as I'm heading to work and shit.
But my question for you is, do we accept that? Are we comfortable with doing that?
I don't know if I want to, but then it's like,
So, I mean, we have to look at this too. So, ostensibly, the end of the Uncharted series with Uncharted 4 happened in 2016.
Yeah.
Overwatch, massive 2016 game. Which is still
here's the other thing. No Man's Sky technically came out in 2016.
No Man's Sky came out. The Witness finally came out.
That's such a fucking weird discussion just with No Man's Sky. When that game came out, everybody was talking about that because it was just like, what the fuck is this?
Jonathan Blow's The Witness finally came out. The Last Guardian finally came out. Stardew Valley was a thing, like made by one dude. I'm just like, ugh. And then like also, even like I mean you love Hyper Light Drifter, that came out in 2016.
Shit,
another major indie game. And it's just the line in the sand has to be drawn of like the Doom 2016 completely revitalizing that franchise.
Real shit.
This is really hard. This is really, really hard. There is a distinction that I think we have to make with both this and something else that's going to come up really, really soon, where like there's a moment that we have to take for ourselves. We're like, okay, this game is actually too massive. Like, this game is clearly the defining game of the year.
The thing with Pokemon Let's Go is it's a mobile game. I'm not gonna like talk shit because it's a mobile game, but it was able to just reach basically everyone and their mother because of that. you are right. Where it is just simply too massive. It is like you're right. It is a fucking no brainer that we should technically give it to that. But
There's going to be another situation with that real soon. And I sort of just want to be like, hey, like these games are massive and they're so clearly massive and like game changing. But like I also just kind of want to talk about something else.
yeah,
Yeah, this is the year that Final Fantasy 15 finally came out. I mean, shit.
there's a lot of shit that came out in 2016.
If I were to give it like my personal vote here, like if I was voting with my heart, I would say Uncharted 4.
Mm-hmm.
If we're removing like we've sort of established, if we're going to remove Pokemon Go from the equation as the clear king, whoever we vote for is going to be merely a pauper in Pokemon Go's court. It's going to be merely a pauper. But I mean, yeah, Dark Souls 3. This is the year that ostensibly the Dark Souls series ended.
Yeah,
And I mean, this is a big year. Battlefield 1. I mean,
to me, it's like between Overwatch and Uncharted.
I feel like for sheer significance, I would probably give it to Overwatch.
Yeah.
With the knowledge that Pokemon Go is the real champion.
Yeah.
So I think I'm comfortable with that if you are.
No, let's go for it then.
And we're about to have a really similar discussion with 2017 because 2017 was a major year for many games, but
and
more
I put it on. I don't even play this game, but I put it on it just to have this discussion.
Because this is the year that we got. Well, so first of all, this is the year that we got PUBG.
Yep.
And this is the year that we got Fortnite. I mean, how? And this is the thing. I'm like, how do you get bigger than Fortnite?
But here's the thing. PUBG walked so Fortnite could run.
That's true. That's true. But then you think about that. Let me say this to you also. This is also the year of Hellblade, which is if we're talking about significance and if we're talking about the impact that games have. I mean, no other game has touched on mental health the way that Hellblade has.
No, like Hellblade has a special place in my heart.
It's really, really tough.
A part of me doesn't like pub. A part of me is like, damn.
This is the sort of thing where you want to like, and then like, of course, the dark horse of this year is Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
Breath of the Wild is one of my favorite games of all time.
But it's like 2017 was the downfall of us all with the beginning of the Battle Royale.
This was also the year of Assassin's Creed Origins, which completely rebooted that franchise.
Shit.
The year of Nier Automata.
Great game.
I mean, like, I'm just.
I don't know. Like, significance, I'd actually say PUBG. But because Fortnite wouldn't exist without PUBG.
I'm gonna tell a little Alec. People who've been listening to the podcast for a long time will know this. So you and I took completely different tacks this year.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you remember correctly, I want to say, I'm not looking this up. I believe Horizon Zero Dawn came out February 27th, 2017.
Yes.
The week after is when the Switch and Breath of the Wild launched.
Yep.
Now, you made the decision to charge through Horizon in that week because you knew that you weren't going to play through it.
No, I knew the moment Breath of Wild was going to come out, like it was going to take up my life.
So, and again, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you would know I was not able to finish Horizon in a week. Breath of the Wild consumed my life, and when I came back, here's the thing. And I think that Breath of the Wild has a lot to do with why we both sort of feel open world fatigue is because nobody has done it as good since. It's because I sat there playing Horizon.
Bro, you just dropped a bomb.
Well,
Bro, you just dropped a bomb on my whole life right now.
Here's the thing. Nobody has done open world as good as Breath of the Wild. Like, I'm sitting here playing Horizon. You know, this is fucking like a year after Breath of the Wild, and I'm just like finally playing Horizon. I'm just like, I don't want to play a game where I can't climb everything.
I actually remember that. I remember you just being annoyed.
Like I don't like I wasn't having. It took me a long time to like flip that switch in my brain, where I'm just like, no, I got so used to all of the bullshit that Breath of the Wild had cut out of open world games. All of the little innovative things that Breath of the Wild did for open world games, that like it was like hard for me to play Horizon. So on one hand, I've got Hellblade, where it's extremely impactful, tells a really important message. On the other hand, I've got Breath of the Wild, which is like the best open world game ever made for my money. On the other hand, I've got PUBG and Fortnite, which are like bigger than big, right?
It's like, I feel like you put those two together and it's like the beginning of Battle Royale.
It is, and that is arguably the biggest sort of like gaming commodity right now is Battle Royale games, right? So it's hard. Like it's tough. It's again, it's that line in the sand that it's like my heart wants to go with Breath of the Wild, and I think there's even a strong, like an actually strong argument for the innovations that Breath of the Wild has. The fact that this is an open world AAA game where it's just like go.
It's
go.
It's like give you all your tools like basically in the beginning of the game and just like in here.
Basically immediately, and then your quest objective becomes defeat Ganon.
And you can go do that.
You can literally go do that. And just it's so hard for me to like stack anything against Breath of the Wild. Literally, and we all know this. This is no secret. Zelda is my favorite video game franchise. The only way that I can beat Breath of the Wild in my own mind is with other Zelda games. So so we already kind of know where my loyalties lie here. I just again, it's that question of, do we take the innovative huge game? Do we take the small
obvious?
Do we take this small little impactful Hellblade, or do we take the juggernaut that is PUBG or Fortnite? And also, you know, you can't understate, you and I don't play Fortnite, but like they just did that really cool Star Wars event in Fortnite where it was like a live like concert kind of thing.
Yeah. That's
really cool and innovative, and nobody else is really doing that. So like you can't really take that away from Fortnite either.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like that Fortnite is like the biggest video game of all time, period. So
it pains me to say that, but yeah.
So almost the way that I almost want to go with this is I almost want to like almost like we did with Pokemon Go. It's like, okay, Fortnite.
Except that Fortnite is number one, but give it to Breath of the Wild.
That's kind of where I'm leaning towards, because it's like Fortnite is the clear king, but Breath of the Wild like is the one that truly should win.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't know. It's one of those things. Breath of the Wild ruined open world games for me.
Yep. Real shit.
It really did. Like, and then like the only reason I'm even able to play Odyssey for 140 hours is because they basically copied Breath of the Wild's ideas in many ways. And this is the kind of stuff that I think we're going to continue to see in open world games. I think a lot of open world games are going to continue to ape Breath of the Wild. Anyway, I'm comfortable with that.
I can live with it.
Fortnite is the king, but it's like Breath of the Wild should have been the true winner. Now, 2018, moving on here. Another interesting one. This is so recent in my mind, it's weird.
Yeah.
Now, I could actually make an argument for a lot of these games. Celeste is another game that deals with mental health in a way that not many games do.
Mm-hmm.
Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is the best fighting game ever made. God of War is an enormous reboot of a series. Marvel Spider-Man for PS4 is the best licensed video game ever made. Red Dead Redemption 2 was a massive phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
And still is. I mean, Where was your head at with this?
You're not even mentioning Monster Hunter World.
Monster Hunter World's huge and great, right? This is the thing that we're gonna have to start talking about too. Is like that game was massive for Capcom. That game was massive for the Monster Hunter series. We can't take anything from Monster Hunter World. Was it innovative? Was it important? Not super.
No, not really. Innovative for the series.
For the series, yes.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of interesting games that I think we can talk about here.
Let me see. Let's take a look through here. I mean, because I think God of War technically was on my list. I think that was what I had it on.
I love God of War. That game is so good. That game was like slam dunk our game of the year that year. But I'm also just like, again, what was it innovative? Was it influential? No. It was amazing. That is a breathtaking masterpiece of a game.
I'm trying to see if there's like what was influential that year.
What game defines 2018?
Sea of Thieves. No.
I sort of, and again, I don't like Red Dead Redemption 2, but like that game, in the way that like really good movies just sweep the Oscars.
Let me tell you right now, that game impacted me, dude.
I know you still think about that game.
I do.
Arthur Morgan lives in your heart.
Oh, he does. I occasionally watch Arthur Morgan tributes. I do.
I don't know, man.
I still to this day think Arthur Morgan's the best rock star protagonist of all time.
And Smash Brothers Ultimate, everyone is here. Everyone is here, Todd. Spider-Man. Think of how good that shit was.
God. I feel like this is like the hardest one. I feel like this is the hardest one actually.
If I want to take, I'll start the conversation this way. If I think about the game that defied my expectations the most, it's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
If I think about the game that was like the one that like had the most heart for me, it's God of War.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, God of War took that angry piece of shit protagonist
and
made him lovable, gave him an actual like good story, like a story worth telling, and like a father-son connection that was really real in a lot of ways. That game has a really raw emotional heart to it that I really respect.
Game we forgot to talk about?
What?
A Way Out.
Good game, but we don't talk about A Way Out.
I'm talking shit. The only thing I remember from that is your anger.
Ending of that game sucks.
So bad.
It sucks.
Why couldn't we just stay in the prison?
Right. For me, this is a really tough one. Because there was so much writing on Spider-Man.
Oh.
And like Spider-Man was such a dark horse, we didn't know how this game was going to turn out.
I knew it was going to be good.
Well, it had all the recipes for success, right? But like, this is one of those games that could have easily fucked up. Like, it could have easily been like, ugh.
Yeah.
But I mean, it defied so many expectations. It did so. Think of the ways that it took the Spider-Man lore and flipped it on its ear.
Yeah.
In ways that you didn't expect. I don't want to get into spoilers, but that game constantly was surprising me. And then like, again, I mean, I can't take anything away from Red Dead, for sure. And then God of War. For me, it's a toss-up between those three.
It's the big three, all right?
the big three of 2018. Spider-Man, God of War, and Red Dead.
I'm kind of okay with giving it to Spider-Man, though.
I am too.
But I don't know if I want to be kind of okay. I want to be sure.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Um,
Because now that as we're talking, and now it's got me thinking, I'm like leaning more to Red Dead.
let me tell you what I respect about Red Dead Redemption 2. Even though it is ultimately what drove me away from the game, I respect that the game does not give a fuck. You know what I mean? I respect that the game like is what it is, and you can either like it or you can leave it. And I personally chose to leave it, but I
And you missed
respected.
out on a fantastic journey.
But I respect that that game has the balls to be like, you know what? If you don't like it, go fuck yourself. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll go fuck myself. But I respected that it told me to go fuck myself. You know what I mean? Like, I respect that about it because so many games, I mean, when you're Rockstar and you're making this big open world phenomenon game, I mean, like, not every company would choose to make the game as alienating as Red Dead Redemption 2 can be.
I didn't think it was that bad.
Bro, the average gamer expecting them to do some of the shit that you have. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a hardcore game. That is a hardcore game in ways that none of the GTAs are, not even the first Red Dead is. Like, that game has got systems in there that is like not to be fucked with. And it's just all I'm saying is that I think it's actually a strength. I think it's actually an arrow in their quiver that they did not, in other words, that they did not baby that game down.
If you weren't ready to survive out in the West.
Look, they could have babied that game down and it could have appealed to more players. It would have appealed to me. You know what I mean? But the fact that they didn't is something that I respect. They made the game they want to make. And look, that game was massive. By all accounts, it told like a fantastic story with a great protagonist. So, I'll leave
No.
I'll leave that option up. I'll leave that ball in your court. If you want to give it to Red Dead, I will surrender to Red Dead. Otherwise, I think it's a toss-up between either God of War and Spider-Man. I might even go as far as to like say that it's a toss-up between God of War and Red Dead in my mind. But if I'm ignorant in this. I'm not properly equipped to make this argument. So,
See, I don't want to get into spoilers. But
right.
no, I never connected to a protagonist like I did to Arthur Morgan. I was invested in his story.
Yeah.
I cried.
See, this is the problem. I can't make that argument.
Yeah, this thing. You know me. I don't cry.
Yeah.
I genuinely got emotionally invested in that game. Like it was one of those moments where like at the end of that game, the end of that journey, that experience, it was one of those like the last time I did this was with BioShock Infinite. I kind of just sat back in my chair and just existed.
Just contemplated life for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Before we just crown Red Dead Redemption, I'm gonna make one last argument for God of War, and you've played them both, so I'm gonna let you make the ultimate decision here.
All right.
But I'm gonna make one last argument for God of War. God of War is the first. It is a PlayStation series that grew up. God of War grew up with us. You know what I mean? Kratos grew as a character as we grew. Where when we were teenagers and we were happy to just, we're all about bloodshed and button mashing and arcadey fun. Those old God of War games are good enough for us. Not anymore. God of War grew up because we grew up. And this 2018 God of War is a fucking grown up ass God of War. This is a God of War that is emotionally mature. You were talking about like crying at Red Dead. There is a moment in this game in God of War 2018 that every time I see it, it makes me choke up because it just demonstrates Kratos's
I know exactly the moment.
The moment where he just lets go of his past and he just accepts all of his sins.
You know, that's the best way to say without spoiling what actually happened.
Yeah,
Good.
he accepts everything and he accepts himself. And
That's
that game grew up with us, and that is what makes it significant in my own mind.
all right. Drum rolls, please. And the winner, God of War.
Okay. Again, I wanted to let you make that decision, but I wanted to just give God of War that one last chance to fight. So you're sure about that?
Yeah,
All right.
I'll give it that.
Now, 2019, fresh in our minds, Todd. Now, 2019's weird because, I mean, we have acknowledged many times 2019 was a weak year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even in our own top, we didn't even do a top 10 like we normally do. It was a top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can go back. That was just a few episodes ago. You can go back and listen to that if you want to hear our Game of the Year discussions for 2019. Our Game of the Years, I don't think, can necessarily be entered into this conversation. I don't think our Game of the Years are necessarily emblematic of what we're talking about.
The fuck was my game?
Iceborne. Yours was Iceborne, mine was Luigi's Mansion 3.
Yeah.
Both great games.
I feel like there's a game on my top 5 that can put in.
I think I know what you're talking about, and I think there's an argument to be made there. I've got really 3 games in my mind for this particular year.
Just name them. So far,
I think
see where.
I think there is an argument that could be made for Apex.
Yep.
Although, again, we already sort of talked about Fortnite and PUBG and stuff like that. I think there's an argument to be made for Death Stranding.
Definitely.
And I mean, maybe this is a little weird and sacrilegious, but I think there is also an argument to be made for Resident Evil 2.
Oh.
I know that's weird, but hear me out.
I don't know, man. No,
because I know how you feel about the remakes and everything like that. I know you're sick of the remakes and stuff like that, and that's why I don't think we're gonna end up going for Resident Evil 2, but that's a really good remake. To the point where, like, I own that game. I haven't played it yet, but like, you can't really deny the quality of that remake.
No, that's yeah. I'll be the first to admit that is a quality.
You can't really.
Remake.
I mean, can you point to another remake that is of that same quality? Not really.
No. Even like the Shadow of Colossus is good, but it's like nowhere near that level.
That's close, but I mean, they polished up everything from this and really rebuilt it from the ground up. I mean, so I got to tip my hat to that. I don't think it necessarily enters into this conversation. I think that Death Stranding, I think, is probably my front runner.
That's kind of is mine, honestly, because that game was such a such a weird space in my mind. It's so
fucking weird.
It's since that game got announced, it's been just a weird place.
I own it
in my mind.
I own it. I really want to play it, but I think that this game is significant for a lot of reasons. It represents Kojima's sort of new home with Sony. Kojima's like first kind of game after the Konami breakup.
He's Unchained.
Yep, exactly. Kojima Unchained.
Unleashed.
And I think it's like this is another thing that I have to like tip my hat to Kojima. Like, he made this fucking game about being a delivery man basically in this desolate United States, and he gave it like a huge AAA budget. Like, not many game designers would do that. You know what I mean?
He don't give a fuck.
It's the same argument that I made for Red Dead Redemption 2. I think is applicable to Death Stranding. And I look at some of these other games and they're great, but they're very iterative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sekiro is like, okay. Fallen Order, great game, but okay. Outer Worlds, great game, but okay. You know, a lot of really good stuff, but a lot of them are very iterative on other things. Death Stranding is unique.
Death Stranding was it's always been, and like I remember like every trailer that ever came out like for it, like before it came out, it's just like I remember just sitting there like, what the fuck are you? So even before we finally got to the point where it's out, you're just the delivery man essentially. It's still a weird ass shit.
Weird.
I've seen gameplay.
Yeah, and I mean like it is just like the fact that you can make a game that weird with a budget that high. You almost have to give it to Death Stranding.
Yeah,
I can't think of anything that's really more worthy out of all these other games. I mean, what do you think? Is there anything else that you could make an argument for?
we bring up 2018 or 2019.
2019. I'm just looking at some of these and I'm like, these are great, but
I mean, that's the thing. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, oh, these like I enjoyed this game. I enjoyed that game, but I don't think it exists in this discussion.
right.
Like, honestly,
Yeah.
like
That's how I feel. I love a lot of these games, but
I mean, interesting. Just to even discuss is like Anthem, but
yeah, but that game.
but
Didn't.
it's just like yeah. I mean, it was just honestly, I'm honestly surprised BioWare made it out alive.
I've heard some amazing things about Outer Wilds. I will confess to being pretty ignorant about that. I hear it's amazing, but
Which one is that one? That's
that. It's made by like a small studio where it's on like a time loop.
Oh yeah.
I've heard some amazing things about it. I haven't played it. I don't think
so. I think we are in agreement though, right?
Yeah, I think Death Stranding probably takes it for this particular discussion for 2019.
All right. Yeah.
Now that leaves one last question before we wrap this episode up.
I don't think it does. I think I already know the answer.
Really? Are you really so confident?
No, I'm talking shit.
Okay. What game do you think defined the decade overall?
Out of everything that we've said.
Out of everything. Just taking it all. What do you think? Because I mean, I have everything. Just to go through what we've said so far, right? 2010, we gave it to Halo Reach. 2011, we originally said Dark Souls, then we reverted to Skyrim. 2012, The Walking Dead Season 1. 2013, Gone Home. 2014, Destiny. 2015, Bloodborne. 2016, Overwatch, although we know that Pokemon Go gets the crown. 2017, Breath of the Wild, although we know that Fortnite gets the crown. 2018, God of War. 2019, Death Stranding.
Okay.
Out of all of those, what do I think is the biggest game of the entire decade? What game defines the decade? I mean...
If Todd Howard was here. No.
yeah. Todd Howard was here. He's like, you want to play Skyrim again?
I swear to fucking God.
It worked for you, didn't it, bitch?
It did.
What game defines the 2010s?
Such an interesting, but like this right here is the real question. Shit.
It's so funny, man. It's so funny, like how you have to think of some of this shit.
Some of this, I'm just like thinking back to it now. I'm like, what? To me,
the way when I look back, in 10 years from now, when I look back at the 2010s, for me personally, I think Breath of the Wild is going to be the one that stands out in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know for you that game is probably going to be Bloodborne, just because of the fondness that you have for Bloodborne.
Yeah, it is still my favorite game of all time.
But I don't know. For me, Breath of the Wild is the way that I define this past decade. Even though it came out in the latter half of it, Breath of the Wild is the one for me personally. It's the one where when I think back to the 2010s, I'm like, yeah.
That's what you're gonna think about, huh?
I think so. I for me, it's a toss up between Breath of the Wild and Gone Home, but ultimately, I think I would give it to Breath of the Wild.
for me, you already know where I'm at.
I
So
do. I don't know if this is. I think that this particular question is relatively subjective. I don't know if this is the sort of thing that you or I could hash out.
yeah, this is
I think that this is kind of a subjective. When you look back at the 2010s and fondness,
because
like
even in a weird way, like I could Destiny's in my mind actually.
right, yeah. In terms of like sheer hours spent and stuff like that, you could
Shears hours shit. I mean, like this is a lot of shit with Destiny, and I'm kind of putting Destiny 2 in it as well. Like Destiny as a whole. Uh,
video games have all these baked in little things about them, right? We can talk
yeah,
about I remember I remember working at GameStop when Skyrim came out and like the turnout for the midnight launch was so much bigger than we expected and like I came in to pick up my copy of the game and like Aaron, my coworker at the time was like, "Yeah, clock in, we need you." Basically. I like those little memories are baked in. The memories of playing Halo Reach, the memories of streaming that shitty stream of Gone Home for You,
yeah,
like the
yeah.
memories of playing Bloodborne together, the memories of picking up my Switch at midnight and cracking into Breath of the Wild. Like these are all baked in little things that have happened over this past decade that you cannot physically remove from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The memories of the late night Destiny raids and playing King's Fall for fucking hours. You know,
I remember my eyes twitching.
I think we literally played for like 8 or 9 hours. I remember my
And
girlfriend, my now wife, feeding me chicken nuggets.
dude, I don't remember why it was so bad. Dude, I remember I genuinely got mad at one point. Uh, dude, it was even just talking about like just rage in general like that. I think back to even doing the fucking was it the fucking Destiny 2 one? Or was it the
Yeah.
Leviathan or whatever the fuck?
Yes.
Fuck that shit.
It's funny. These are the little things that like stick out in your mind. So because of all of that, I don't think we can objectively say what we would consider to be an overall game of the decade.
I
All
mean, to me, the two that stick out to me are Bloodborne, and I would actually like put Destiny 1 and 2 together in my mind
uh-huh.
in a weird way. Those are the two
The
I'd say.
Destiny experience.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
For better or worse, I think Destiny is an experience
I could
of
go so
you
many
know.
different directions with this. I could again, Breath of the Wild's the easy one for me. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that experience. Um Again, Gone Home is a good one. Skyrim's a good one. Like, yeah, as you said, Destiny, just the entire culmination of the hundreds of hours I spent in Destiny. I mean, like, there's a lot to unpack there. But yeah, gun to my head, I would say Breath of the Wild. But I don't think there is a clear answer to that question.
No, I don't. I agree.
So I think we've
The game of the
done
decade is whatever you want it to be.
the game of the decade is in your heart. No,
There you go.
I think we've done the best job we can simply nailing down the games year by year.
Yeah.
But the memories that you have with video games in a given decade are really up to you, Todd.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I think that puts a solid bow on the conversation. This will be something to listen to when we're old and gray and senility has taken over our fragile minds.
I'm already gray.
Oh, I am too.
Got,
It's bad.
I got salt and pepper.
I think this will be an interesting conversation to look back upon. But anyway, I don't know. I think I'm emotionally tapped for this conversation, though, Todd. Is there anything you would like to add before we put a bow on
Fuck
this?
Undertale.
Oh God! One day you'll have to give in.
I'll never will.
I'm a Clockwork Orange your ass. Make you play Undertale.
It's funny. It's like, dude, I'm telling you right now, I've maybe seen 5 seconds of gameplay.
I'm just gonna Clockwork Orange you.
I'm telling you right now, 5 seconds of fucking gameplay. That's it.
I'm
That's all I've
gonna
ever seen.
force you to play Undertale, and like before you know it, you're gonna be like walking around in your day-to-day life, just like Frisk, Toriel, and just like humming like fucking,
See, I don't even know what the fuck you just said.
just like humming Heartache and everything, like as you're walking through, visiting Tumblr every day.
Oh, fuck you.
One of us. One of us.
I'll never be.
Anyway, Breath of the Wild's the best game of the decade. We will see everybody next week when we get back from PAX South. We will certainly have many stories to tell next week. From
Yeah, that's probably that is what this next episode's gonna probably
most likely. We will certainly talk about the games we played, the misadventures we went on, the copious amounts of booze and unhealthy food that we surely have eaten at this point. But we'll catch everybody next week. Thanks for listening. Get fucking dunked on. Bye.
See ya.
Hey there, thanks for checking out another fantastic Nerd Bourbon video. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, be sure to go ahead and subscribe, leave us a like, drop us a nice comment, or I guess a mean one if that's your prerogative. But until next time, get dunked on.